Welcome to Inside the Audition, the podcast where we go behind the scenes for a deep dive look into the world of auditions. I'm Joe Lars Larson, creator of Actors Audition Club, an international community helping actors book your dream roles in TV, film, and theater.
And I'm Brandon Knox, actor, producer, and co-host. Each episode, we chat with actors and industry professionals to share their audition experiences, insights, and advice.
We provide actors with actionable tips, strategies, and resources to help you elevate your auditions.
We demystify the often intimidating and misunderstood world of auditions to help you succeed.
So whether you're just starting out on your acting journey or you're a seasoned pro, join our Actors Audition Club members as we go
Inside the Audition.
Here we are inside the audition for the 127th time. Welcome, everyone. Listeners, viewers, Brandon Knox up on the Toronto Danforth. How are you?
I am doing great, Lars. How about you?
I'm good. I'm fantastic, actually. It's a balmy 10, 12 degrees out there. Spring has sprung.
Mm-hmm.
People are planting gardens and geese are flying back and butterflies are out and flowers are blooming. It's exciting. And I see you're still rooting for the Leafs for some reason. So
I am still rooting for the Leafs. As I said before, the Leafs are going to win the Stanley Cup this year, and it's going to be one hell of a time.
Right. Yeah. I feel like I've heard that. How many years between 1967 and today? 23, 33, 56 years. Is that right? 56 years.
Like that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Well, good luck with that. I'm sure it's bound to turn around, you know.
Yep.
It's like you're like someone who's playing roulette and you're betting on black and it's hit 56 times in a row on red and you're like, we're due. It's got to be black one of these times.
Hey, something's got to give, right?
Right. Yeah, that's good. All right. Well, this, again, is not a hockey podcast. Although you should maybe start one. I was thinking that you should have a second podcast, Brandon Knox and the Leafs.
Ooh.
It's a very sad podcast.
No, we'd be very happy. It's going to be great.
We want to welcome all our reviewers. Make sure to share this out if you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube right now. Share this out with your actor friends. Everyone who's interested in elevating their auditions and their performance. And also, if you haven't taken advantage of it already, you can go to laughingvikings.com/audition hero, and you can learn how one actor went from stressful DIY self-tape auditions into booking a blockbuster Hollywood role and 2 series lead all in the same year. We put together a 3-day workshop a while back, and you can get instant access to all of those recordings. And you can learn from the best. Go to laughingvikings.com/audition hero, and we'll give you instant access to that free workshop right now. You can do that. But not right now. Stick around for the podcast because we do have a fantastic guest. Should we just bring our guest on right away?
Yeah.
Now, often we roll their clips and show their demos, but what we've been noticing is that we keep getting copyright flags and the platforms either mute the video or take the video down. So we're going to drop her demo reel in the comments. You can check that out. I often say with some of our guests, I'm like, if I were to list their whole bio or all their credits, we'd be here. That would take the whole episode. But you know what? We got time. So our guest, I'm going to read some of her accolades here. Our guest today is Precious Chong. She's an award-winning actress, writer, and comedian living in Toronto. Some of her most recent credits include CBC's Murdoch Myteries, Syfy's Chucky, CBC Gem's Homeschooled. She's got other film and TV credits, including USA Network's Falling Water and Hallmark Christmas movie Love You Like Christmas and Northern Lights of Christmas. Also, her web sketch series Sex and the Single Parent with a fellow comedian Melissa Story was nominated for a Canadian Comedy Award for Best Web Series and Best Female Performance in a Web Series. And that's got over 2 million hits on Funny or Die. And their weekly podcast, Story with Chong, great name, by the way. It's currently on iTunes, Spotify, and Podcast Addict. She's got more and more credits, but I'm cutting her bio off at halfway here. Please welcome to the virtual studio, Precious Chong.
Yay!
Hi.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you here. Good to see you. Virtually, you're often here in the studio, in person.
I am.
Getting some help with auditions here, so we're happy to see you. As I announced your name, I'm like, Precious.
Chong. You were saying it
Tough.
like
Yeah. It's
Chong.
a bit of a tongue twister. I need to go to maybe an extra voice and speech class to tackle your name. And I was also thinking, when Lord of the Rings came out and Gollum was saying "precious, my precious," was that a good boost to your ego? Did you enjoy that?
Well, it was like when I was in school, it was The Hobbit, my precious, and then there was Silence of the Lambs. The dog is precious. The dog that's dog is precious, and then the other precious reference is the movie Precious.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are the Hall of Fame of my name.
Yeah, and you're in that as well. Obviously, you're also in that Hall of Fame too. So.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, there's a weird, you know how you sometimes put your name in YouTube just to see what happens. Well, I did that, and there was this weird, YouTube clip on like the craziest name in Hollywood or something and it was Precious Chong, and then they it was about me, but the story they had this total made up origin story of my name. I was like, where did they make this up? Yeah. Like I was named after this other person, but I was really just named. My name Precious came from my dad used to call my mom Precious when she was pregnant with me, so they named me Precious. And they were hippies; they were doing a lot of acid, so.
Makes sense. So speaking of your origin story, we like to kick everything off, every episode off with something called the 1 minute life story. So Brandon is going to throw a little stop watch up on the screen here. There it is for 60 seconds.
Okay.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Inside the Audition. This is Precious Chong's 1 minute life story starting now.
Okay. So I was born in Windsor, Ontario because my dad was working in Detroit, and we didn't have green cards. And my parents were, I was their love child, and my dad's Tommy Chong of Cheech and Chong. And so I'm a Nepo baby. I lived in LA since I was 2. I went to boarding school in Europe. I went to University of England, then I went back to LA, and then I was worked for Oliver Stone for 2 seconds. I got fired. Then I decided I want to be a professional dancer like you do. Then I decided I want to be an actor, which was a shock to my family because I was always the most introverted one. And then I was in LA until I did a play in Winnipeg. Well, and I met my ex, who we're friends with still, so don't worry. And I ended up getting pregnant, and we got married, and I lived in Toronto, and I've been in Toronto since then, which has been, my son is 17 now. So I go to LA a lot, but I'm based in Toronto. I'm a fake Canadian, but maybe I'm a real one now. And now I live in Canada, and that's it.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
I think I did pretty good.
Oh, you did great.
Answer. Yeah, you nailed it. You got a lot
on the minute mark
in there.
I did the whole arc.
A lot
I
to
almost got
unpack.
stuck on. I'm trying to remember Detroit. I was like, "What's the city, Detroit?"
You were born in Detroit, or you're born in Windsor, but because you guys were.
Yeah, I was born in Windsor.
Gotcha.
And randomly, I was just born there. I have never been there since I've been born there. But my dad was in a band with Motown, and he was working in Detroit. And then my mom, they went over the border for the free healthcare because
makes sense. Yeah,
Smart.
that's funny.
Socialized medicine.
Mm-hmm. I actually went to university at Windsor, so I know it quite well.
Oh, okay, yeah,
I love that place. That's great.
That's good. Those are the two best things about Windsor, I think. That Precious Chong was born there, and Brandon Knox went to school there. And
I heard there's a lot of strip joints in Windsor. Maybe.
Brandon, confirm or deny?
There's what?
A lot of strip joints. A lot of strip. I don't know.
There's a few. There's at least 4 that I can think of.
Border towns. It's a border town.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one just a couple blocks from my house in Windsor.
Okay, so the rumors are true.
Yeah, it was called the Leopard Spot.
I like it. I like it.
Fun fact. While we're on the topic of strip clubs, For 3 years of my life, between the age 23 and 26, I lived in Anchorage, Alaska. And to this day, I believe Anchorage has the best name ever for a strip club. The name of it was the Great Alaskan Bush Company.
That is
a very good name.
Yes, and this was 2003 to 2006, so there wasn't much bush in that in that place, but it was aptly named. Yes.
Oh, that's true, Lars. That's good.
Yeah,
Anchorage. What were you doing in Anchorage?
I, as a young pup out of university, kind of randomly got a sales job with a financial services company and did really well in my first year. Got promoted to the point where they said that I could open and run my own branch. And because I'm dual citizen, they offered me a short list of small market cities like Fargo, North Dakota, Butte, Montana, just a bunch of like butt fuck nowhere places. And then there was Anchorage, Alaska on that. So I was like, if I'm going to go to the middle of nowhere, I'm going to go to what I think is the coolest middle of nowhere. So I packed up everything I owned as a 23-year-old and drove to Alaska, which took 9 days. And opened a branch office, and I was responsible for hiring and training and managing a small team of financial services reps, and essentially running the whole state. It was the only office in the state, so it was really cool because every time the company was international company, had offices all over North America, but anytime they would do a yearly or quarterly conference, I was the state guy for Alaska. So I would always we'd conferences in Vegas and in Seattle and trips to the Bahamas and cool things like that. And I was the Alaska guy. So yeah.
Oh, very cool.
And fun fact, I don't want to spend the whole time talking about Alaska, but I could. I've eaten at the northernmost Denny's in the world, which is in Fairbanks, Alaska.
Wow.
Nice.
And I once had a t-shirt that proved it, but the t-shirt is no more. Yeah.
Damn.
Very cool.
Yeah, super cool.
I did a tour of Manitoba, so I once did a show in Churchill.
That's up there.
That's pretty far up there.
Yeah.
That's far. And I guess they have a jail for the polar bears outside of town when they start to come into town. There's a little pen that they have to put them in if they catch them. And everyone leaves their doors open because if they see a polar bear, you have to be able to run into somewhere. Yeah. So
that's funny. The doors are open to escape the polar bears. That's interesting. Yeah. And the polar bears never wander in those open doors?
I think they're too big. And then also Halloween, because the polar bears are huge. During Halloween, when the kids are trick-or-treating, the fire trucks circle the town so that none of the polar bears come in, and so the kids don't, because they're holding bags of candy.
Right. Yeah, all these kids walking around getting treats, and then the polar bears are following them around getting treats.
Exactly.
They're like, ooh, it's that time of year. Once a year, all the kids are out at night.
Yeah.
Now, this the podcast being inside the audition, most of our audience are working actors here who are looking to improve their auditions. So we'd like to talk about your auditions. Can you tell us what you recall as being your first professional booking?
Oh, my first professional booking. Well, I did commercials and stuff when I was a kid, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I mean, I just was doing them. But I booked a movie called Grace of My Heart, which is an Allison Anders movie. And I was in a play reading company. A play reading group. Basically, it was a group of actors that in LA, when I first started out, that would just meet once a week and read a play. We would just to be creative and have fun. And one of the people in the group was a casting director, and he was casting this movie, and so he got me to audition for it, and I booked it. And it was basically just one scene, and I just cried in it. I was Crying Girl was the name of my character. I do a lot of crying. It's one of my hits. And I was a crying fan. One of the main characters, I think it was the Matt Dillon character. He dies in the movie, spoiler alert. And Ileana Douglas was in the scene I was in. And it was wonderful. It was totally a a beautiful experience. I auditioned. My audition was with Allison Anders, the director, right away. She couldn't have been nicer. She wrote me a card on my first day when I got on set. It was only a day. It was just such a fun, beautiful experience. And so that was my first job. And it completely set wrong expectations.
You're like, wow, this is going to be perfect and amazing. Yeah. Our guest last week, Jacob Boos, actually booked he got an agent, and his very first audition he booked, and it was just all this new stuff coming at him. And then he was very nervous on set and told the story last week. You guys can check out episode 126 with Jacob. And his first experience was nerve-wracking on set. So he was a little spooked after the first one.
It is nerve-wracking. Yeah, but you don't know what you don't know, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know. The nerve-wracking part of this experience was before I even did the shoot, I got a call saying that Allison Anders wants you to sing a song, and so they were going. And I'm like, I'm not a singer, and people say that, but I'm really not a singer. Like, no. But they were like, no, she really wants you to, like, I guess they wanted an authentic person to sing, and so they booked like this with this kind of, I always forget his name, but he used to be married to Joni Mitchell. He was a very hot established producer, so we had to like go to his place in Venice, and we sang this original song, and by the end of the day I was like, maybe I'm not such a bad singer. I really did not use it. So that was a little humbling. But yeah, I guess I feel like every time you get a job, well, a couple things. Like Ron Howard said that the auditions are the job and the bookings are the vacation, which I think is true. Mm-hmm. I think our job as actors is auditioning. And when you get the job, it's like, relief. In some ways, there's always the feeling of like, I want to, I don't want to fuck up, but I don't also want to make an impression, but I also don't want to be obnoxious. It's all these levels. And it depends on where you are. It's such a hierarchical environment, really. Let's be honest, like if you're a day player or if you're a lead or if you're a series regular, if you're recurring, you know what I mean? You sort of have a pecking order. So it's always good to be aware of that. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it always feels like every job is like always a bit like, okay, let's find out what this is going to be like. And it's scary, right? It's weird.
Yeah. I mean, they're all different. That is one of the fun things about being an artist and an actor and performer is we never really know what's coming around the corner. And when something does come around the corner, we're not really we don't know what we're in for until it's happening. And you're like, oh, this is what this is. Then you finish it and it's on to the next one, and that one's gone. Can you share another memorable audition story? And this could be something really cool and fun and positive, or without throwing anyone under the bus or naming names. If you have any like,
I have so many
wacky nightmare stories.
I'm a terrible auditioner. First of all, I actually self-tapes have been a bit of a blessing for me because my nerves used to be really bad, and I think so I went through a period where I was very blocked, and I would just get so in my head and so psyched up, and LA is a very intense, because that's where I was, started my career was in LA, which is, usually people do the opposite, but whatever. So I auditioned. I got a audition for Jiggly. Remember Jiggly, the movie with J-Lo?
Oh, yeah.
Like it bombed.
Jennifer. Yeah. Renowned as one of the flops of this decade or century. Yeah.
Well, I might have cursed the movie. I don't know, but I was auditioning for, I think, her lesbian roommate or something. I never watched the movie, but and it was Ellen Lewis, I think, was the casting director. So a very big casting director. She cast all of like Scorsese movies, and I was going through this stage in my career where I would get so in my head and nervous that I could never feel good in the audition. I always felt like I wasn't showing up how I am. You know, it was very, I would be dry. I'd feel just terrible. And I go and do the audition, and it's in like one of those, they're always in like, it was in this like, what are they, like a trailer almost, this temporary like place. And I go in and I do the audition, and I'm just flat, and it's just not good. And I go back into the car, and I start my car, and I just start crying. And I was just like, I can't believe I did another bad audition. I can't do another bad audition. There's a theme here. And so I was like, I can't do this again. So I storm back into the office crying, and I go, I just need to do it again. I just need to do this.
Wait, is the opening scene from La La Land based on you? I feel like you're describing the opening scenes from
that movie was, I also did a solo show in LA, so I felt very like, you know, called out by that movie.
Of course. Yeah. I think a lot of people were. Yeah.
And so they, bless their hearts, the casting assistant went in and asked if I could audition again, and I go in, my face like red from crying, and I do it again, and it's not better.
Yes, because this role wasn't crying lady.
Yeah.
I love that though. I love that you
Yeah,
did
I love
that.
how you went back in. That's great.
Really, I if you're gonna go back again,
Right.
do it better, because otherwise, no. I mean, I think I learned, like, I think now as an actress who's been in the business for a while, you know, your worst and your best auditions are not that far apart. And I used to put so much pressure on myself to be good and to be perfect. And then, you know, sometimes you do your best audition and you don't book it, or sometimes you do your audition and you book it. Like, I stressed myself out so much. I took out the fun. And that's really, I mean, some people are just good auditioners. And some people, but I really do feel like it's hard, because the environment, the whole setup of auditioning is almost made to make you feel like it's hard to keep the fun, because you have to wait, you have to park somewhere, you have to find the place, you have to see all these people that you go up against or have weird feelings about in the room. There's always someone who's really good at like talking to everybody, and it's just, and then you're if it's an emotional scene, you'll be prepped, you'll be ready, and you'll get there, and then you have to wait, and then you have to keep the engine revving, but then you don't want to rev it too much because you dry up, and then you go in there, and sometimes the director's not there, so you're with a casting person who just lets you do it once, and then you're done, and then you're like, what do I do?
Right.
It's such a grueling process. That's before times. And then now it's all about self-tapes. So you get this audition, and they, 8 pages of dialogue, and you have to figure out, I have my son, try, and hopefully he's not, doesn't have school, so he can do it for me. Or I'll call you guys. You have to like find the logistics and the person to help read with you. So that is its own, and then you send it off into the ether, and you just don't know if you did it the thing that they wanted, or those things are unsure. So yeah, it's a trip.
You mentioned back in the day having real big challenges with feeling like you're a terrible auditioner and getting your nerves and getting in your head. Was there anything in particular that you did or changed to get over that, or how did you make that switch to getting back to fun?
I think it was hard. I mean, I was in a class that I really liked, and I had and in Los Angeles, and a class here. I think having a class, a place to practice acting. Someone said it, like having a place where you can act, so that every time you don't get an audition, you're not like, oh my God, how do I act again? So having a place to work out. Just auditioning and not caring so much about the auditions. And I think for me it was, meditating, all the boring things, meditating. And also, I think when I started to write my own stuff, I did a solo show, like I said, and doing stand-up, I wrote a movie called Homewrecker. That's a horror movie, shout out, on Shudder. I co-wrote that. So I'm always working on my own projects. And I think that helps me feel less desperate.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I have more control over when I get to be creative. So then each audition is just an audition and not so make or break. Yeah.
I love two things that you've said is getting back to the fun of it. It's supposed to be fun, and we can often, when we become professionals, we can suck the life out of it and suck the fun out of it and put all this pressure on ourselves. But also when you are creating your own things and making your own projects, you're self-validating rather than only looking for external validation. And that can be a challenge when you're auditioning and you're hearing no and no and no and no and no. Then you're like, well, do I even know what I'm doing? Can I act? Am I even an actor? But if you're doing stand-up and writing your own things and greenlighting your own projects, then you don't need anyone else to tell you that you're an actor. You are, and you're a creator and you're a producer and a writer and doing all those things. So I think that's really smart. And I think especially now that everyone can pick up a smartphone and everyone has global distribution through the internet or through social media sites, that you kind of got to do it 50-50, right? Like
out. Back in our day, kid, we didn't have all this shenanigans. I mean, you could produce a play, you could do live theater. But yeah, there is no excuse for not creating your own stuff and, making that a part of your creative, process,
Next question. Can you share an unforgettable on-set experience from your career?
Let's see. Unforgettable on-set experience. I mean, I guess, well, there's two that come to mind. One is when I worked on LA Confidential, and that was like, I had no idea like who Russell Crowe wasn't famous, and I didn't really know the director. And I don't think anyone realized the sort of the scope of that project. But when I got on set, and it was in Long Beach, and there was Curtis Hanson was the director. And I remember my friend reminded me of this. I just had basically one line in the movie, and I read with the casting director, and then they wanted me to come back to read with the director, and I was like, oh my God, do I have to read? I'm such a brat. Anyway, so I booked it, and yeah, it was a night shoot, so it was all night, and I'm getting beat up, and this guy who's a stunt guy who's my husband in the movie. He's just like, so we spent a lot of it just me getting beat up in the place, and so it's just not off camera, but it's through a window. Mm-hmm. But I just felt like the period piece, like all the cars. Russell Crowe was like in character, and he was very nice as an actor. He stayed for my close-up, which was at like 4:30 in the morning. I just remember feeling like, oh, this is magical.
Right.
Yeah, it was cool. It was very cool because it just felt like, oh, I want to be like this all the time.
Right.
And
yeah. I was just going to say that is one of the frustrating things, whether it's a stage show or being on set for TV or film, that it's magic in the moment, and then it ends, and you're like, no, I don't want it to end.
Yeah, because it feels so like, yeah, you get to play with each other. Like, it's so fun, and like you're creating this world together. And sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes it's more, I've been on sets where it doesn't feel like that, where you just feel, but that was a magical experience. And then when in 2018, I talked about it, Homewrecker, when me, Alex Essoe, and Zach. Alex Essoe is on a lot of Mike Flanagan movies. she was in Dr. Sleep. She's done really well. But her and Zach Gain are friends, and we all wanted to make something together. So we wrote this script and we shot it in my house, and over 2 weeks, and it was insanely we had no money. Like, we did it for like nothing. And it's this horror comedy, and there's this one, and we didn't have any crew, bare bones crew, but it was so fun. But there was this one part, spoiler alert, I kind of hold her hostage in my house because I want a friend, and she has handcuffs on, and she, spoiler alert, smashes my head at the end. And so I'm not even in the scene because she's smashing a dummy, and I'm upstairs, and then I hear her go, shouldn't I have my handcuffs on? And we realized we made this huge fuck up. It was like a big mess in continuity.
Yeah.
And we were like basically the second to last day of shooting, and we were all exhausted. And I just started laughing so much because I was like, I think, or she had them on, like, it was like one huge mistake. And yeah, it was so funny to me. I just couldn't stop laughing. I was like, this was the best. It was so fun. But I really loved doing that movie. It was so, yeah, I hope to do something like that again, where you're just making something together. And yeah, and it turned out people really like it. Some people hate it, but some people like it. And it got released. So we're happy with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's always cool. I mean, it's super cool to be in these big, giant blockbuster shows and movies where you're like, holy crap, they're millions of dollars and 500 people between crew and background and everyone. And then the flip side to that is something like that where it's small, and then it just feels like movie camp, like back when you were in school or something, and you're just 10 people in a house and no extras and no crane shots and minimal craft services.
Exactly.
And it's just as fun too. Yeah, that's great.
Like Cassavetes was always a huge inspiration to me, like John Cassavetes and their movies. Jenna Rollins, I love her. I think she's my favorite actress. And that style, guerrilla filmmaking, do it yourself. Like, I love it. I think I don't know. It's pure.
Right. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about your particular audition process and just walk us from your agent sends you the breakdown, you know when it's due, what do you do from that point to the time you shoot it?
Yeah. So I get the email, and then I'm like, okay. You're always like, okay, when can I shoot this? So my process is, technically I do like to print the sides. I like to highlight them, and I do a voice memo. I also write them out. I write the sides out, just write them longhand, all of the sides, like all of the dialogue. For some reason, that helps it get in my brain.
Yeah. And
then I also voice memo the thing, so I listen to it as I'm walking my dog, because I used to be really good at picking up dialogue lines, but now my memory isn't so good. So I listen to it over and over, walking my dog, just like in the day, just doing my stuff. And as I'm doing it, I think, you know, I don't know. I in the process of that, I don't really do like a huge like character breakdown. I used to do that, 100 questions, backstory. I just I think I'm making choices as I'm listening to it, but I don't know I am, kind of. And then I shoot usually with like I said, Wes. He's also an actor. We have a child together. So we usually, during the pandemic, we started the system of like reading each other's auditions for off camera. So yeah, so then we shoot it. Usually my son does it for me, or I'll come to you guys. And I try and really, in the terms of the actual shooting of it, breathing, sometimes an activity, but not too much props, but just some physical. I feel like I'm a physical actor. So if I do something with my body, I get out of my head, and then I'm able to not I can be more present.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things I've learned about myself as an actor. And then at that point, it's really breathing, listening to the other person, and having fun. Even if it's a sad character, even if it's crying, which I get a lot of the crying ones, you know, there's a joy in crying too. You know, there's a joy of like feeling it. But that used to be a block for me. Then I'd be like, I have to cry. Why I'm not crying? That happened in camp. Why am I not crying? I'm gonna cry. But since I had a kid, I guess the waterworks, there's something really. Hopefully I won't jinx it. But like, there's a more of a connection. There's access to that. Pressure and ego really are stifling for an actor.
Yeah, 100%.
That's why the best directors are so kind.
Yeah.
or just create like that. I was telling you about my friend who's married to a writer. Well, she has been in a few Paul Thomas Anderson movies. I know, so lucky. And she says that he's so strict about creating an environment for the actor, like no touch-ups. No one's supposed to, that he really keeps the environment so the actors feel free, like they're not on camera. Like, I don't know if he uses marks. He's very, and I think that helps.
Yeah, because it sort of keeps them in like a bubble, a protective bubble where they're in their magic spot and all the actions going around them, like all that.
Because acting in a set is crazy time. You're sometimes the actor's the last person that's considered, so they're like, no, you have to avoid this, you have to stand here, you're blocking this person, they touch you up, they're adjusting you need to hold this way, and then you're like, and now you have to be real. It can feel very counterintuitive to being free in the moment relating to the other person.
Yeah. Can you tell us, do you have a dream project or dream role that you aspire to create or be a part of?
I do actually. Well, I was thinking about that as I was driving here. I was like, oh, it would be cool to play like kind of like Norma Desmond, like an aging actress. I always wanted to do Laura in Glass Menagerie, and I was able to do that part. And I always wanted to play, Streetcar. I wanted to do. Oh God, what's her name?
Blanche.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. You'd make a great Blanche.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to do Blanche. And Zach, the guy who I did Homewrecker with, we wrote over COVID. We wrote a movie called The Second Woman that we're, hopefully we're in the midst of trying to get financing for, and that's an amazing part. It's so fun. I play a dual role.
Ooh,
nice.
Yeah.
You mentioned Norma Desmond as part of my conservatory experience with Tom Todoroff Conservatory based in New York. We had a film history class, and Sunset Boulevard, which is that's the character Norma Desmond is in that. Forget the name of the actor who played her. She's a famous actor, super famous.
Yes.
And was based on her name. But in the film production, so in the film history class, that was one of the movies we had to watch. And then we had a film production class where we were all assigned one scene from one of the movies that we watched. And our group was assigned Sunset Boulevard. So we had a fantastic actor. She played Norma Desmond, and I played Joe. So and it was the scene. It was the first meeting of me arriving to meet Norma Desmond, and like, I know you. You're Norma Desmond. You used to be huge in the movies. Yeah. She's like, I am huge. She says, the movies got small.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah,
it's such a good movie.
It's such a great movie. Yeah, so bizarre, so wacky.
I love it. I know. Yeah. That's so cool that you got to do that.
Yeah, it was really fun. And again, we no budget, no crew, like just skeleton crew, skeleton budget. And we had to figure out how we're going to make this work. Shot it in like 2 days. But super fun. Yeah. And it was fun to play that just a little bit on my voice where I was like, I know you, you're Norma Desmond. Just
The
that,
style.
whatever that. Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool.
Do you have advice that you would give to your past artist actor self?
Aw, precious. Go to graduate school. Get your real estate license. No, I'm kidding. Regrets. I guess in a way, I've kind of said it already. Like, I put so much stress and pressure on myself, that I tortured myself for many years through the process of acting. And acting is hard already. Acting is hard to do as a career. So to add the stress and pressure on top of that just is unnecessary. So I would have just been like, have more fun with it. Do stand up earlier, start writing more earlier. Yeah, I guess that's what I would. And so also, I think there was so much pressure to be like, I have to make it when I was younger before I'm 30, because then I'm old. It's hard for women, because you're like, you're on like sort of a clock. And now I feel, it's such a bummer because I feel like I feel better as an actor now. I'm more relaxed. I know what I'm doing more, but then, as you get older, there's just fewer parts, blah, blah, blah. So there's that like sort of dichotomy. But I forget what I was going to say. Oh yeah. So there's so much pressure. I felt that there was like this expectation of like, I have to be this by this age. And I have that I wasn't really, it's hard to remain present in the moment and enjoying what your life is as it's happening. The process is what is the fun part. And because that's what we have, and we might as well be in the process of it. And, it's good to have ambition and it's good to have goals. It's good to have that motivation, but also it can be your ego can be a bit of a dream killer to opportunities that you might have I was too sort of focused on this idea of what I thought I was going to be.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. You mentioned pressure. You were in a unique scenario based on who your father was. How did that play into that pressure? And I know that a lot of people from the outside would be like, oh, she's got it made. Her dad is already in the business. But I'm sure the flip side to that is there's a certain expectation or maybe a box that you get put in because of who you are. And also, I'm sure just the personal relationships, that can be a tough thing for kids of people who are in show business too. So do you want to speak to that experience a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I'm such a failed Nepo baby. Well, my sisters were both actors. Like I have two older half sisters, Ray Dawn and Robbie, both in the business. So everyone was in the business. I think it just took me a while to find my place in it. I think I was very shy about, I was always very wary of using my dad's name and status to get jobs, which was but don't say I didn't. I didn't. I remember trying to audition. I auditioned for so many Adam Sandler movies. Remember when there were all those. So I did use it there. But yeah, I think there's definitely expectation. There's people have ideas about who you are as a person before they meet you because of who your parents are. I think there's definitely, believe me, I get being the daughter of like Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman is pretty sweet if you want a career. I get that, right? Like you're kind of set up, but you're also under a microscope.
Right.
So, you know, for someone who would be scared of being ridiculed, that would be scary, right? That would be like, oh, the stakes are high always, rather than if you're just some Joe Schmo, you have freedom to just explore. So I think there's good and bad to both, but I think there's a lot on social media, especially there's a lot of like, they need to acknowledge their privilege. Jamie Lee Curtis came from movie stars, and I get that. And I understand, and it's true. There's no doubt about it. But it's also like, family business, right? That's what I really didn't want to be in show business. I really tried to be normal and be in another, like I went to university. I was doing something. I wanted to be not in show business because I thought it was too chaotic and too weird and up and down and superficial. And, but I guess it's kind of in my blood. So there's that.
Yeah. It's the THC and CBD in your blood.
And the fact that I was conceived on acid, that's what my dad was.
There you go. Yeah, flower child for life. What was that alternate path in an alternate world where you didn't choose show business? What would Precious Chong be doing now?
I'm probably working in advertising. I always thought I'd work in advertising. I mean, you know, at 30, I thought I would be kind of like Kim Basinger in 9.5 Weeks, but without the weird sex. Maybe that too. But like, you know, shoulder pads, run an art gallery, you know, like business power boss lady. I didn't know. I just thought, you know, I thought I was like on a regular career path, and then I just got, so advertising maybe.
Right. Cool. Brandon, do you have any other questions, queries?
Just one to go back to what you said in your 1 minute life story. You said that you worked for Oliver Stone for a hot minute.
Oh yeah.
What was that experience like, and what happened at the end?
It was speaking of Nepo baby, it was just such a great, so I got out of university. I went to school in England and I studied English lit and language, and I didn't really know what I was doing. So I came back to LA, and I was doing coverage, which is reading scripts and writing like synopsis. It's kind of a job that people do in LA. And I met this guy who was an assistant to this development person at a movie company, Josh. Josh became a friend of mine, and he coincidentally, he ended up directing a movie about my dad when he went to jail called AKA Tommy Chong. Very funny, very cool movie. Unfortunately, Josh died of cancer a couple of years ago, which is very sad. But anyways, back to the story. So Josh was a friend of mine, and he was an assistant, and assistants in Hollywood tend to know each other. So he knew Oliver Stone's assistant at that time, and she was looking for an assistant for her. So I was an assistant's assistant.
Nice.
And so I was doing coverage for the woman that he worked for, and he suggested me. And so I went in, and I didn't not to know anything, you know, so I was just cocky and myself, and I got the job. And at the time, I wasn't that into Oliver Stone's movies. I thought they were a little macho for me. So I was such a brat. So I ended up, it was right when he was opening his production company in Venice called Ixtlan, Ixtlan. And so it was early days. So he had an assistant, but he hired me. But then there was this head of development who came to work for him. And it was just like this time of like growth. And he was in the finishing Born on the 4th of July and casting the Doors movie. It was a crazy time to work in his office. And I was just at the front desk. And it was really fun, but it was very stressful in a way. He was very nice, but it was high stakes all the time. And I'd never had a regular job. And I wasn't that good at it, you know?
Mhm.
I think it was the beginnings of me realizing I didn't want to do that part. I wanted to do the acting part because they were auditioning for the Doors movie, and it was all these actors coming in, and it seemed so fun. Or the writing part. But so his head of development, she basically was like, "Don't you want to go travel? You're young, you know." And so then they fired me, but then they hired me part time, and then I quit. So it was a heady job, but brief, but fun.
Nice. And it sort of set you on the path that you are on now, right?
Kind of, yeah. I ended up dancing because I always wanted to be a professional dancer. So then I after I left Oliver Stone, I became a jazz dancer, as you do, and worked in Japan for a little bit. And then when I came back to LA, I accidentally went on an acting audition because I had terrible stage fright when I was in high school. I acted when I was a kid, but then I got stage fright in high school, self-consciousness. So I went on an acting audition, and it was the weirdest thing. It was I did terrible at the audition, but I was like, I like this. I want to do this. And I just had this moment where I was like, I want to be an actor. So that's that.
Amazing. Thank you.
Super cool.
Sure.
And just fun fact to complete things, Brandon messaged me. It's Gloria Swanson was the actor who played Norma Desmond.
Gloria Swanson.
Shout out Sunset Boulevard. Yeah.
Yeah, watch it, guys. It's a good one. It holds up.
That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Precious. Anything else? Any parting words of wisdom or otherwise to our audience?
No, it's been really fun. It's been fun to talk to you guys. I didn't realize I had so much to say about acting, but I guess I do.
Great. People can check you out. They can follow you at Precious Shelby Chong that's on Instagram. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, and I do a monthly comedy show. Our podcast is kind of dormant, but we have some episodes up. But I do a monthly comedy show at Comedy Bar. And our next show is next Tuesday, February 21st, with Melissa's story called Story and Chong. So check it out.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, we love your energy and fun vibes here when we have you in the studio. And thanks for being on the episode today. And all the best in the future with these dream roles and aspirations. And yeah.
Thanks, guys. Great. It was fun talking to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, listeners. We'll say goodbye to Precious. Goodbye. Bye. Oh, actually, we have a rule here at Laughing Vikings Actors Audition Club. We always clap them in, clap them out. Ladies and gentlemen, Precious Chong.
Now I have to try and how do I leave? I'll just leave. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Make sure to share this episode out. This was episode 127. Also, too, if you want to join the wait list for our next enrollment for Actors Audition Club, you can go to laughingvikings.com/join, and you can get on the list for the next time we open up the doors, where you can learn some of the top strategies and tools and resources that today's working actors are using to elevate their performance and book more roles in TV, film, and theater. So you can check that out and make sure to smash that subscribe button.
Smash it.
Smash it. Smash it. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. See you, BK.
See ya.
This has been Inside the Audition.